Hi everyone, and welcome to this chapter of Flutter Animations course. In this chapter, we're going to talk about TweenAnimationBuilder and also custom clippers. Now, TweenAnimationBuilder is an implicitly animated widget, and we talked about implicitly animated widgets in the previous chapters. So if you haven't watched those chapters, I highly recommend that you have a look at them before continuing with this chapter, because we're kind of like building upon the knowledge that we've learned in the previous chapters as we go on. So it's even though you can watch like the chapters in this playlist separately, like on their own and individually, it's usually a good idea to start from the beginning, just so you accumulate all the knowledge from the beginning, because sometimes I do have some references to the previous videos, and it's just good for everyone if you just watch from the beginning. So TweenAnimationBuilder is a widget that we're going to use in this chapter to create a very simple animation. I'll just bring it up to the screen. As you can see in here, we have a little circle in the middle with the width of the circle, or how would you say, the diameter of the circle basically, or the twice the radius, equal to the width of the screen, and the diameter basically vertically as well. Of course, since it's a perfect circle, it will be the same. So it's the width of the screen, both horizontally and vertically. And then this circle starts with the red color, and then it just continues changing its color from time to time. So this is what we're going to do. And to achieve this, we're going to create something called a custom clipper. And because we're going to use ClipPath, and also we're going to use TweenAnimationBuilder. So, and remember, we're creating these chapters talking about, for instance, implicitly animated widgets, simply because this course needs to cover pretty much everything that Flutter has to offer for animations, and TweenAnimationBuilder is one of those widgets. Okay, let's get started. So let's just go ahead and bring up our terminal. I'm going to do that right now. Let's go in here, and this is going to be example 6. So let's say Flutter, create example 6. And let's say org is SE Pixolity, and this is my organization, so you can just substitute it with your own. Example 6, we bring it up with Visual Studio Code. I'll get rid of the terminal. So let's just do the usual dance. So I'm gonna say Pro Max. Then we're gonna go and say, where should we go? Workspace here, and then I'm gonna say zoom level is 6, like this. Or do we use 5? I believe we use 5. So let's just go with 5. Then I'm going to go into the main Dart file and just going to replace this with my Flutter scaffold application. Get rid of this, and let's go in here and also get rid of our status bar. I'm not sure, should we get rid of the activity bar as well? Just so we have a clean slate? Perhaps, yeah. I wish we could get rid of even the breadcrumbs on top. Good. I mean, it's getting really clean. I wish I could also get rid of like the tabs in here. Somehow getting rid of the tabs would also be really nice. Let's see, tab. Nope. All right, let's just keep it. Let's keep it like this. And while we're doing all of this, let's just run our application on iPhone 14 Pro Max. So I have two simulators in here. iPhone 14 Pro is displaying the finished version of the application, and 14 Pro Max is our application basically, which we haven't really developed anything for yet. So what I usually do with these things, I start with like with bottom down, like the kind of like the most important component, and then I go upwards. So for me, the most important component in this video at least is the circle. So it'd be really good if you could just create this circle. All right, let's go in here on our application and get rid of the app bar as well, because I can see in the destination application we don't have an app bar. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so what we want to do here is just to render a circle. And the way we do it, as I mentioned before, is with a ClipPath. So let's go in here and say that we have the body of the scaffold, which is a ClipPath. All right, and this guy needs two parameters, which are quite important, which is, one is the actual child. So I'm going to say child is a container with, let's say the color is red. Okay, and then we have a width, which is equal to media query, if I can spell, query of context. And then we're going to say size width. We're going to say size width, and then the same thing for the height. Okay, so then all of a sudden we're going to get a container on the screen. Let's have a look how things look like right now. So I'm going to bring up the simulator. All right, so you can see it doesn't have any kind of shape at the moment, right? So let's also put it in the center. Here we go and we say wrap with center. All right, let's have a look. Okay, so now we have some sort of a rectangle in here. So our job is to kind of clip this rectangle into a circle. So for that, and the reason we're using ClipPath, we need a custom clipper. Okay, so let's go ahead and create one. So we're gonna say that we have to have basically a subclass of custom clipper. So I'm gonna say class circle clipper extends custom clipper, and then we're going to say we are working with a path object. And please also remember that when it comes to these classes, I kind of expect you to already know these, or at least have an understanding from before how they work. So a custom clipper, we're gonna work with a path. You can see it's basically kind of like a generic object in here, so it can pretty much clip anything, okay? But usually you work with like rectangles or paths. And in here, then we have a function called getClip. Let's see if I can spell getClip. And this returns the same object that you provide in here, and it gives you a size. All right, so you wouldn't be surprised if this size was the size of the widget, which is the ClipPath. And this size is exactly going to be that size. All right, so it will give you the size of the widget, which is here, and then we'll say, okay, just create a path for me, and then I will return it back to this guy. Okay, so let's go in here and say that we are gonna construct a path. But then there's another method that we usually override, and it's called should reclip. And in here, I'm just going to create an arrow function and say false. And I won't go too much into details about should reclip, but what it does really is that since this path can change, it can be recalculated given different sizes that are provided to getClip. Then if that is the case, if the size of this widget changes while it is still the same widget basically, but its size changes, so it's the key is the same, then this function will be called, and it will give you the previous instance of the circle clipper and say, okay, here's this custom clipper with this path. Now, do you want to recalculate? Do you want to redraw this clipper? So you get the previous path, and then you have your current path. Then you can just do a calculation basically and say, okay, yeah, it is time to redraw. But since we don't expect the size of the circle to change in this example, then we're just going to say, yeah, just don't reclip. All right. Good. So, and also I have to clarify a little bit, because I think the sentence in the way I put it, maybe you thought that, well, then we have the current path, but this function will actually be called before you've calculated the new path. All right. Because it is literally asking you, should I reclip? All right. So you have to do your calculations basically in here. And usually what people do is just they go and see whether the path, like the size has changed, or any specific thing in the path has changed. Maybe there's some sort of a key, but a lot of people usually either say false or true. But I've seen code where the calculation of should reclip is actually very complicated. So just so you know. All right, so in here, what we're going to do is just to create a path object. So I'm just going to say var path is a new path like this, and just let's return it here and like this. Okay, then we're going to go in here and say we are going to add an oval to this guy. And then we say first we're going to create a rect. So it actually gave me the exact suggestion. This is the exact code that I wanted to write, but kind of the same. I want to create a rect like this, and then I'm going to say add oval this rect like this. All right. Maybe we could just do it like that. So what's happening in here is, as you can see, we're creating a rect object because there is a function called add oval, which takes a rect and then it draws an oval in it. And a lot of people kind of get confused about this oval. What does it mean? And you can see it doesn't say add circle, it says add oval. And to demonstrate this, I kind of need to draw on the screen. So I'm going to bring up the iPad here and just going to do some drawing. So I'm just going to move around here in my seat. I hope that you can still hear me. So let's say that in our example, this is the iPhone screen like this, and the widget that we're taking is here, right? Now, this is our, I don't know why that line became so straight. Now this is the size. So let's say the width is, let's say it's W, and height is H, and width and height are actually equal in this case, right? Because we said we're actually using the context size width for both of them. So they're equal. Now, An oval, in this case, we have to first specify a center for it. And then we also give it, let's go back to the code. You can see in here, we're also giving it a radius with a center, okay? And we're saying from circle in this case. So we're creating a rect that has the center, which is the size width divided by 2, which is, if you think width is this entire thing, divided by 2 is literally in the middle. All right, so this is going to be like we're saying the offset, the x position for the center of the circle is, and then we're also saying size dot height divided by 2. So it is this height, which is here, and we're dividing it by 2. And then we're literally saying where these two lines overlap, this is the center, okay? That's fine, so that's the center. And then we're saying the radius, then we're saying size width divided by 2. This could as easily be size dot height divided by 2 because we're drawing a circle, all right? So the radius is gonna be the same. Doesn't matter whether it's horizontal or vertical. So you could literally change this to height and things will work exactly as expected. So we're creating a rect object with that information. We're saying width divided by 2, which is literally here. Sorry, width divided by 2 is this, right? And it's this. And height divided by 2 is this guy right here and this guy, but they're all the same. So if this variable was x, it would be x here, x here, x here, and x in here as well. All right. So given this information, we're saying, okay, given the center and this x right here, then draw a circle. So it's actually not drawing a circle, I have to say, and this is not a perfect circle that I'm drawing, but in reality, this is going to be a perfect circle, okay? But what is happening, we're actually defining a rectangle that contains this circle. It's very important to understand that because we're literally saying in like an empty space, let's say in here in this canvas, we're literally saying center and then draw a circle. This is what we are saying. And then find the rectangle that contains the circle. This is what we are doing in this example. So we're actually calculating a rectangle that contains the circle because we're saying rect from circle, okay? And then we're saying add oval, and this guy takes a rect. And then you'd be maybe confused because you'd be thinking, but why am I adding an oval to a rect? And the reason is simply because in some cases, maybe your rect kind of looks like this. And an oval, in this case, let's say that it has a center here, it will kind of look like this, all right? So oval is kind of like an egg shape. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Maybe you sometimes have a rect that looks like this with this center. And then an oval in this guy would kind of look like this, all right? It just so happens that we created a perfect circle in this example. And then we're saying calculate the rect that contains the circle. Okay, so we could have actually done it in a different way as well. To be honest with you, you don't necessarily have to create a rect like this. You could just say, okay, given this canvas with the width and the height, create a rect that is equal to width, height, and then width, height. You could have created we could have created the rect in this way. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but this makes it a lot more clear that we're creating a rectangle for a circle, okay? And when people look at the code for a circle, they expect the width and height and everything kind of to be the same, all right? So I hope that cleared things up. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna create a new note here on my left-hand side without you seeing it so that it doesn't bother my eyes because it kind of is a bright color. So we've created our clipper right now. So what we're going to do is to go to our ClipPath and say that now the clipper for this guy is going to be our custom clipper, which is here, which is called a circle clipper. Okay, so let's go to ClipPath and say the clipper is a const and create an instance of this guy. And I think we can actually go ahead and create a const constructor for this because the super also has a const constructor, I believe. So I'm just going to say const circle clipper like this. All right. And then this code is going to work fine. So if you look here, I'm going to get rid of the completed application and then put our simulator here and then going to change the size of the code. And then I'm going to save. There we go. Now we got a perfect circle, which is red in color. Okay. The next step is to go ahead and create some sort of a function that gives us a random color. And random colors, I'll actually have to explain this a little bit. Colors in Flutter and most other front-end frameworks is made up of a 32-bit number. And that is, for those of you who are familiar with hex numbers, it's like you have a RGB, okay? And it's in 4 components, basically. A is alpha, Oops, let's go in here and create a comment, okay? I'm gonna draw it in here like this. A is alpha, R is red. It's actually trying to write the comments for me. That's really good. And great, okay. And these numbers are usually 0 to 255, okay? 0 to 255, the same. Oops, sorry, actually. Usually alpha, yeah, it is actually 0 to 255. All right, this is fine. And blue as well. So the reason they're 0 to 255 is a 255 or 256 total numbers, because 0 is also a number in here. 256 is the bandwidth of an 8-bit value. An 8-bit is like 8 zeros, basically. Okay, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so then you can imagine 4 multiplied by 8 is 32. So the entire width of this guy is 32 bits, and this is 8 bits, and the same in here, 8 bits. So you just, I mean, I'm writing these because a lot of people still don't understand ARGB. So I just thought to explain what we're going to do in this particular function. So alpha is the kind of, how would you say it? It's like the visibility of a color. The way I usually think about it is like an onion skin, or let's just say a thin layer of onion. All right, and when I'm talking about a thin layer of onion, it's for those of you who have cooked. You know that onion has the layers basically, but between the layers there's a thin layer which is kind of transparent. And let's just say that you have a color which is blue, and then you divide. You say then, oh, it has half the alpha of 255, so it has 128 of alpha. Then in that case, it's kind of like it's kind of like half visible by putting like an onion skin on it, kind of like that. Okay, but it is kind of difficult to explain, but I think most people understand the concept of alpha. So what we're going to do is to create a color. So this is a 32-bit color, which is going to look like this, and the components are kind of like this. This is alpha, and then you have red, green, and blue. All right, so the least significant number is blue, then after it is green, then is red, and the most significant 8 bits are the alpha. And FF, if I bring up a calculator, let's go in here, and if I type 255 and then go into the programmer mode and then go to 16 bits, you can see is FF. So 255 is actually equal to FF. So what we want to do right now is to go ahead and create a color that always has the full FF for its alpha. So it's fully visible, but the next 24 bits, which is the R, G, and then B, they're different. So it's randomized, okay? So for that, let's go ahead and say import Dart math, and then I'm gonna say as math. So that we can prefix our random class with math. And let's go ahead in here and say we have a function, and we say it returns a color, and we say get random color, and it creates a new color in here. And then we say, okay, the base is this, which is the full alpha. And then we say give us a number that is a random number all the way from 0 to the full RGB. Okay, and then in here we can actually, you could literally put 0 in here just so that you're clear that the alpha is coming from here, so it's not coming from here. Okay, that's good. So we got that. I think we have to put parentheses in here as well, and a semicolon, and you could also put a colon in here just to get the formatting right. Okay, so now we have this code in here. What we need to do is to go and kind of like create an animation between the red color and a random color. And for that, we're going to use something called a widget, which is an implicitly animated widget called a TweenAnimationBuilder. All right, so let's go in here and say this entire, let's see, this container in here is inside a Tween like animation builder. All right, so that's the child. But when we're doing this, we also have to provide it with a tween object. And tween is coming from the word between. So we need to just tell it that is a tween object that is a tween of colors that goes from one color to another. Okay, so since this implicitly animated, it's an implicitly animated widget, we need a stateful widget. So let's go ahead in here and say convert it to stateful widget. Then we define our color. So let's just say var color is get random color like this. So we're going to go from this random color from this function. Sorry, we're going to generate a random color, and then we're going to say in here, let me just show you instead of trying to explain a lot. So let's say we have a tween, which is the parameter to this tween animation builder. We're going to create a color tween, because remember, tweens, I mean, you can have tweens of different things. I think there's a rect tween, there's a path tween, or something like that as well. You can see them in the documentation. Last time I looked, you can have a look in here and you can see there are different types of tweens. Let's see if we can find them. I remember it was written somewhere, the different types of tweens. Tween here, like color tween, rect tween. You see a tween between two doubles. So there are different types of tweens. And in this case, we're going to create a color tween. All right. Because remember, a tween is like an object that can change the value from the start to the end. And it's important that this color tween understands how a color changes. It's not just a double value that increases, but it's actually a color. Okay, so let's say that, okay, we go from a random color. So we begin by saying get random color. So this is like our start color. And then we say the end is actually this color variable in here. Okay, so we start with a random color, even though this is red, but we just completely ignore that. And then we say end with this random color. So start with random and end with random. And then every time this animation has finished, then we generate a new color for this, and then we set state. So let's just fix this for now. Let's just fix the duration. You see, it needs a duration for the animation. So I'm just going to say duration is 1 second. All right, like this. And also then says, okay, give me a builder. So let's go into this builder. And in here, you can see you get some properties, which is the value, and you can change this to a color basically, because that's our tween. And in here, you could literally say return child, I believe. Can we not do that? I think we should be able to do that though. I wonder, let's just do it like this, because child is definitely provided. So I'm going to save that and also restart. And you can see nothing is going to change in here. Okay. And to be honest with you, the reason behind this is that you can see the child in here is a container, which has the color of red. And the builder is for sure getting a call. So if I actually do, let's do a login here. And then let's go into the builder, and I'm just gonna log something in here. So I'm just gonna say color changed like this, and then log it. All right, and then bring up our debug console, save the application, and you can see it says color changed. All right, so it is getting called. It's just that we're not changing the color of this container. So how do we do that? We have a container that already has the red color, and we kind of want to apply this color on top of it. And there's a really handy widget for that actually in Flutter, which some of you may be familiar with. It's called color filtered. So we say color filtered like this. And then the child is going to be this child. And then we have to provide it with a filter. And you can see it says color filter. I don't want the mode. Actually, I want mode, and I'm going to say this color, and I'm going to say SRC a top. Like this. All right, so I'm gonna just save this application, and you just saw this color change. I'm gonna restart the application. There we go, and you just saw a change within 1 second. But after that, nothing is happening, and the reason is because we need to restart this animation every time that 1 second passes. So let's go in here and say on end, and then this is a callback that we'll get whenever the animation ends. And you can see that we're saying set state, and I'm just gonna change the color like this. Can't be used as a setter because it's final. All right, so let's just make this a var like that, and then get random color, and then like this. Okay, so I'm just going to save this and restart the application, and there we go. So what is happening is that this Tween Animation Builder, what it does is that the first time it gets called, it takes a random color, and then it changes it basically calls the builder with this random color, changes all the way to this new random color. And then the next time we create an end value, what it does is that it has already memorized the end value of the previous execution. So it says, okay, I did an animation from point A to point B. Now you want me to go from point B to point C. And then when this point B to C changes, then it says, oh, now you want me to go from point C to point D. So it always memorizes the end value of the previous animation, and it uses that value as the start of the next animation. Just remember this. It's like the most important thing in this entire chapter. Okay. So this Tween Animation Builder remembers the end value of the previous animation. And all you have to do is just to change that end value, because the previous end value is going to be used as the start value of the next animation. And then your new animation is going to be, and your new end value is going to be here. Okay. So just keep that in mind. And that is really pretty much it. You can see it is a very simple animation. All we were doing is just one set state and changing the end color, and this just keeps animating. And this is a very simple animation, but you can do a lot more with Tween Animation Builder, as you can imagine, because it takes a tween. So you can have a tween of a rect. So you can, for instance, move an object, change the shape of an object, and animate all of that at the same time. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you drew some value from this video, please do subscribe to my channel and consider at least doing that. Still a lot of people haven't subscribed to my channel, and if you want to, you can also press the thanks button at the bottom of the screen to support my work. Thank you, and see you in the next video.